What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Monday Night Throwdown on BostonSportsRadio.net. It's been a while. Had about a month off, but we're all back. Ricky Sharma, Brian Roach, Jake Banter, and John Fern with you. Before we start the show, guys, I think we should all just give Brian a group hug and just console him. He's had kind of a rough 2 weeks with Will Middlebrooks going on the DL. I know that's got to be tough for a guy like Brian who just loves Will Middlebrooks so much. I'm sorry, I just had to throw that in, Brian.
It's perfectly fine.
But we will get to baseball on this show today, guys, but I do want to start by talking about some Bruins-Penguins. Game 1 a couple nights ago, obviously, first 2 games in Pittsburgh before Game 3 back in Boston. Fernie, you're the Bruins expert here. I want to start with you. What are your thoughts from that first game?
The first game, the Bruins looked strong. They looked great, and the Penguins didn't. I'm not going to take away from how the Bruins played, but the Penguins just played a very undisciplined game and kind of fell into how the Bruins wanted them to play. I'm expecting the Penguins to play their kind of game, which is very offensive, to probably score more than 0 goals because I don't see them being shut out twice.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone was expecting a shutout in the first game, but I do want to add to a point that Fern said about the Bruins playing their style, the Bruins commanding the way that the style of the game is played, because if the Bruins get into an up and down ice kind of type of game with the Penguins, we're not going to have a chance. But we basically, the game for most of the game was 1-0. And then we got that second goal, which was an absolute, was the icing on the cake for us. But they didn't control the puck in our zone very often, and that's what the Bruins do. They don't let other teams control the puck in their zone, which is hard for them to score. And Claude Julien's system is tough to watch at times, but when it comes down to playoff hockey, it's more about not letting goals into your own net than it is about scoring goals. And this is a classic defensive versus offensive matchup, and I think the Bruins have a great shot.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're not going to keep the Penguins off the power play like we did in the first game. They were 0 for 4 on the power play. Crosby had a nice shot that hit one of the posts. Tuukka Rask made some unbelievable saves in the second and at the end of the first period. But what I have to say is basically the Bruins, the way they're hitting is actually helping them like cause turnovers from the Penguins, and the Penguins can't skate. And I mean, the Bruins aren't that good skating. Like, they have Jaromir Jagr, and he's just as slow as they come right now because of his age and whatnot. But with Malkin, Crosby, they have a great offense like that should be able to score more than 0 goals in the playoffs. They were averaging over 4.5 goals a game before the shutout. So I think it was a great way to start it, and Game 2 tonight will be even better.
I agree with everything you guys are saying. Obviously, when we went into this series, we were looking at Malkin and Crosby as 2 of the finest players in the NHL. I mean, they combined this year for 89 points. And, the Penguins are a very big team. They're not the most physical team. I would say the Bruins are one of the more physical teams, and they were the ones that were able to control the tempo early on by being aggressive, fighting for the puck, crashing against the boards and things like that. And, I think in Game 2, you're going to see the Penguins respond and be a little bit more aggressive than they were in Game 1, and the Bruins, I hope, will be ready. I think it was very important to kind of set the tone for this series early on by going in there and getting that first win on the road. And we said going into this series that they need to take 1 of 2, and that they took Game 1. Now they're in a position where they can take the second game. I don't know if they will do that, but if they can, now they at least have home ice for now going into the second game of the series.
Yeah, I mean, all of the pressure now is on the Pittsburgh Penguins, where before, going into Game 1, a lot of people didn't give the Bruins much chance, and obviously we all know Game 2 is a lot tougher than Game 1. Both teams got to check each other out. I think the Penguins, who knows how they're going to come out in the first period. One thing I wanted to touch on is just look at Malkin and Crosby, how frustrated they were all game. You saw Malkin get into the fight with Bergeron. You saw Crosby kind of just get toyed with by Chara, and where Rask had come out of his net and kind of gave him a little touch with his stick, and he turned around, like, what the heck? And it was kind of fun as a Bruins fan to watch these 2 all-stars and 2 of the premier guys in the league and in the world kind of be off their game. And, we got lucky with, a couple posts and Rask playing, not out of his mind, but he did his job and he got the shutout. I'm excited for tonight.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it was something interesting for us to see, not only as Bruins fans, but hockey fans in general, to see Sid rattled as much as he was. We were really in his head. He, like you said, he went after Tuukka Rask, which didn't make a lot of sense to me. And then going after Chara really doesn't make a lot of sense. He slashed Sean Thornton, was really kind of looking for it. And then what the Penguins do is then they turn and they argue that they weren't getting the calls and that they were getting out physical. They were getting pushed around a little bit. But the problem, what kind of defeats their kind of point with that is that they were starting a lot of these kind of scuffles with players. And I mean, you did mention having one of the better best players in the world. I think Crosby is probably the best player. I don't think anybody would argue that, but so is Chara's right there. And having Chara to be able to play against Crosby and Malkin, it's been it's a game changer. But that game could have easily been 3-3. That game could have easily been 2-1. Penguins in the first or second period, because they had a ton of chances that just didn't drop.
Also, I mean, to see them rattled in Pittsburgh, their home, that really just shocked me. It looked like the game was being played in Boston.
Yeah, no, I mean, what I'd say to add on to both what all you guys are saying is that I think the Bruins, the way they're playing right now, should be favored to win the cup. I know everyone's talking about the big bad Penguins and how they're one of the best teams, and then you look out in the Western Conference, with the Blackhawks the year they had. I think the Bruins are getting a little bit shafted here by all the major media outlets that are not really talking about them all that much. The way they've been playing, the way they battled back from in that epic Game 7, and no one's really talking about the Bruins. I really think that they have a chance.
The Blackhawks are up 2-0. I think it's going to be an original 6 matchup, which would be really nice. It'd be a great 6-7 game series if the Bruins could get past the Penguins. But if the Bruins win tonight, there's no way the Penguins are coming back in, because they'll have to play 3 of the next 5 games in Boston. So
to me, it's hard to say never. It's more of I know. But what's interesting to think of too is that they also have the Iginla trade too. I mean, this is another key factor in this where. Pittsburgh really made some moves to improve their team to make a cup run this year. Went and got, not only Iginla, but went and got Brandon Morrow, another offensive wing player that the Bruins could have used. I mean, personally, I think Morrow and Iginla are both, if you gave me the choice, Morrow, Iginla, and Jágr, I'm taking Morrow and Iginla every time. And the Bruins got, I think Jágr's played okay, he hasn't played great, but he's definitely given the Bruins a lot more chances in the offensive in the zone. He makes things happen. I mean, that's it. It's not, he puts the puck at the right place at the right time, which I think the Bruins lack sometime, and I think that's part of what's happening to Tyler Seguin. Not to get into a whole nother a whole other topic on the Bruins, but Tyler Seguin is almost a non-existent factor, it seems like, on this team right now. He can't seem to get it going, and something we talked about briefly with Fern. Me and Fern were talking about before the show is he just on the wrong line? Are Chris Kelly and Rich Peverley the right players to have a player of Sagan's skill set to play with?
But also, would you rather have Jaromir Jágr on that third line and really have that line be non-existent? Because
good point.
I think that's your only other option, and when they were all together, they absolutely did nothing. It was Jágr stick handling around, and it looked like one player, a guy who's 41 who can't even move quickly. And Jágr with that first line, it's giving everybody more chances to score. And with what Claude said about Seguin, he's just become a role player too with that third line. The fact that he hasn't scored, the fact that he hasn't had assists. He's still playing great defense, and he's turned into more of a two-way player like Patrice Bergeron, and I still think he's getting it done. And look where the team is. They're up 1-0 in Pittsburgh for Game 2 in the Eastern Conference Finals.
With a shutout, nonetheless, they got a shutout. I wonder what the odds were on the Bruins getting a shutout in Game 1 in Pittsburgh. I mean, the Penguins had I think they had 4 of the top 5 point scores in in the NHL playoffs. The only other player that was above them was Krejci. So I mean, they score goals. They score. They get assists. They get goals. To shut them out. I think it's a slap in the face to Pittsburgh. Is that, hey, it's the old saying. I've been thinking this the whole time during this whole series. Is defense wins championships in every sport. Don't let them score. Don't let them score is what it always comes down to.
Of course. I think every major championship, and I think we're digressing, but every major championship, regardless of what sport you're talking about, absolutely is based on defense. Prolific defenses do win championships. And before we move out of Bruins talk, I want a prediction from each of you guys for tonight, Game 2 in Pittsburgh. Who's taking this one?
Let's see. I say Penguins take it 4-2.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to lean with Brian here. I think the Penguins take it 4-1 actually.
I'm going to go with the team that's rolling. I love the momentum. I love the things that we saw in Game 1, and especially, since Game 7 against the Maple Leafs, this team hasn't looked back. And I'm going to say Bruins 3-2.
I'm going with Penguins 3-1. As well as the Bruins have played.
Can I take mine back? Can I take mine back right now?
The Bruins are going to win another one on the road this early in the series. So I'm
taking mine back, Aashish.
Nope, it's set in stone.
No, I'm taking the Bruins 3-1 tonight. Lock it in there, baby.
Oh man,
God.
Come on,
guys, get a little analytical.
Hey, they all went Penguins, which everybody's thinking, and I went Bruins.
I know. You're right. I got to stick with it. 3-1 Pens.
Then he made us look awful.
There you go. It's a 2-2 split. That's the way I like it. So we'll see who takes it tonight. Okay, guys, let's move on to baseball. Obviously, yesterday a rain-shortened game. The Yankees, or rather the Red Sox, ended up taking Game 3 from the Yankees. Ended up winning the series. The Red Sox are looking pretty good. I mean, they obviously hit that May slump where they couldn't get anything going. They went 2-9 in 11 games during that stretch, but they're back in first place. Is this sort of now how you see the Red Sox advancing through the rest of the year, kind of playing at this level? They are going to hit a few slumps here and there, but all of a sudden, I'm looking at the calendar. It's June. They're in first place by 3 games. I think they're a contender. I think these guys are for real.
Oh, yeah. I think they'll at least – the AL East is going to be tough to win with there's 4 teams within 3 games. So it's going to be tough to see who's going to win because it could become because the AL East will beat up on each other, and whoever takes the most out of the other teams, like the Angels, Houston Astros, who are actually playing very well right now, 5-game win streak. But there's like Seattle Mariners who could play well. They have some decent pitching, like Felix Hernandez could have a shutout against the Yankees, something like that. Something against Tampa Bay, even against the Red Sox. It's basically like a whole bunch of things that could end up happening. But I say the Red Sox either win the AL East outright or have the first wild card spot. So that's my prediction.
I like that prediction. What I like about the Red Sox team is that they can score runs at any point of the game, and I don't think we've seen that in a couple years with this team. And we've gotten a few 9th inning, 8th inning rallies. Their lineups put up more runs than any other team in the AL East, and it's got that margin's gotten closer over the last couple of weeks where they've had a little bit of a slide. But in their last 10 games, they're 7-3. They just rolled through in Yankee Stadium, winning 2 out of 3. And, the one game we lost, we faced a very sharp CC Sabathia. And, John Lester got a little shaken up. And I think his overworkload is kind of catching up to him.
Totally.
He's had 6 starts out of his 12 with 115 pitches or more. And before this year, he's only had 2 in each season.
I would say this. Red Sox success, not only the Red Sox success, but most success of most Major League Baseball teams is depth in the starting rotation. And the Red Sox have that. We've had injuries. We've had little hiccups here. We've had little hiccups there. Lackey's been down. Buchholz missed a start. Lester seems like he's going to be heading towards the DL, if not, taking, the Red Sox kind of breaks, as they call it, where it's like a 15-day, 2 missed starts, kind of refresh them. Because, I think the Red Sox play a lot more as the marathon than they do for the sprint. But it goes back to having the depth in the starting rotation. To me, I think the Red Sox have always had the bats to score runs, but we get into problems when we can't put out a quality starter, and that's what's going to set the Red Sox apart from a lot of the other teams, not only in the AL East, but in all the other teams in the American League. I think that we have as strong a depth in the starting rotation and in the bullpen as well, I guess, to a degree, even though we've had a ton of injuries in there. I think it always comes back to pitching, and I think, with the two horses at the front, the two aces at the front, really, I mean, with Buchholz and Lester, and, a good supporting cast, the Red Sox are going to be right there, just like we've said it all along.
Right, no, I agree, but I think the main thing with that is it just comes down to health, because you talk about Clay Buchholz and John Lester, and while Lester has actually been able to stay healthy for the majority of his career, the guy I worry about is Clay Buchholz, because we look at this year, and he has, by absolutely no doubt, established himself as the best pitcher on this staff and the ace. I mean, John Lester is the ace in name, but the way Clay Buchholz has been pitching this year, 8-0 with a 1.63 ERA, he is no doubt the ace. He is the guy I worry about because you look at his history with injuries over the last 4 years, it's not been good. He's been on the DL, so it's something I worry about. A couple of years ago, he missed half the year with a stress fracture. This year during spring training, he's bending down to pick up a towel, and he pulls a hamstring. And then now this collarbone thing, obviously it didn't seem to affect him last night. But if Clay Buchholz can stay healthy, if John Lester can stay healthy, I feel really good about this team.
Sure. I mean, the lineup's going to be there for the Red Sox. They have the hitters. And the other thing, too, is it's much easier to go get a hitter at the trade deadline, even though the dynamics have changed at the trade deadline because of the 2 wild card spots. A lot more teams are in the mix, so they don't. It's bad for them to kind of trade off some of their pieces, even though they don't have a really legitimate chance. It actually helps their marketing to kind of keep that idea of possibly making it. So I think that it's going to change the dynamic of the trade deadline. But I think the Red Sox could easily add another bat if that was an issue. But I think they have the horses, in the starting rotation in the pen. I'll continue to say it.
They've also gotten production out of the guys coming up, with the injuries to Shane Victory, Ellsbury being out, Middlebrooks being out. We've gotten tons of production out of all those guys. Bradley Jr., Nava, who's been on fire, Iglesias, who I didn't think he had the power and got a hold of one yesterday, really proving me wrong. He could hit it out of the infield.
Yeah.
Well, what happened last year, they were trying to force Iglesias to be like an all-fields hitter when he's a full hitter. And he worked with Pedroia in the offseason. He increased his extra base production in spring training. And he does actually have some pop. They say he could have Alex and Gonzalez-type pop. So
that's what they said on the broadcast yesterday.
Yeah, and apparently when the Yankees were scouting him, they said he has the best hand since, what's his name, Omar Vizquel. So, I mean...
I wouldn't doubt that. When I see Jose Iglesias play, defensively, I think he's very fundamentally sound. He's a little bit different than Steven Drew. Steven Drew's not really a flashy guy. I see Jose Iglesias as the guy that's making web gems. But the one concern I had with him, over the last few years is can he hit? And this year he's been doing it. He's been over 400 for the majority of the season that he's been coming up and down. But and for a long time, I know I was talking about always getting a lot of CNI singles and a lot of lucky hits. Now he's starting to drive the ball. He homered yesterday. So if he can continue to play at this level, it kind of raises the question, well, should he stick around when Will Middlebrooks comes back? And I say, yeah, why not? Keep him around. You still have Steven Drew. Keep him around as a utility guy. Maybe get rid of Siriaco.
Yeah, Siriaco is out of options, so they would have to put Siriaco on waivers, which is the one thing that the Red Sox management does not like to do. They don't like to put people on waivers and have them go somewhere like the New York Yankees, like Tampa Bay, and then they start producing, and then it's like, what the heck just happened? Like, we had this guy, and he was going to be our utility guy, but now he's someone else's utility guy. But I actually agree with you that Iglesias should stay up, especially against the New York Yankees. He's 13 for 22 against the Yankees with a home run, 3 RBI, and yeah, so he's been playing pretty well. Even at third base, he had a couple tough hops yesterday, and he took care of it. So.
Just taking the words right out of my mouth there, Brian. Yeah, can we just have him play against the Yankees? I mean, the guy is just beasting them, and it seems like for the Yankees scouts, they're just like, they don't want to face Iglesias. I mean, he's robbing them of hits. He's batting .500.
Yeah.
590.
And he just hit a bomb. So
And when you pile onto that, the fact that the Yankees lineup sucks, like it just makes it so much
I mean,
worse.
they're
for
still
them.
Teixeira 0 for 9 with 7 strikeouts.
I love it. But he always gets off these slow starts. But here I'm gonna throw a curveball at you guys. I just kind of thought of this. Well, they were talking about Xander Bogaerts yesterday on the broadcast, and we're talking about a guy who could potentially be your shortstop of the future. We're talking about after Stephen Drew leaves, maybe you hang on to Iglesias for another year. Do you keep Iglesias around, or then do you use him as trade bait next year if Xander Bogaerts really is the real deal?
Well, what do you think of keeping Iglesias and having Bogaerts play third?
Yep.
And if Middlebrooks can have some sort of a year, get something big for Middlebrooks, and you got Bogaerts on the hot corner. And
you know what? I know Brian wants to jump in.
Bogaerts right field. Bogaerts has to play right field or left field. One of the two.
The guy is killing it right now up in Portland. I mean, I got tickets at Hadlock if you guys want to come up.
I'll be up there.
I mean, Bogaerts. I say Bogaerts still has another year, like before he actually gets called up. Like maybe next July, August. Unless he's really starting to hit well and field well. Because, I mean, I still think he's too young to be up in the majors. I mean, they don't really need him, like, at this moment in time, unless Middlebrooks comes back from his injury and he's still hitting 200 and not getting good enough contact on the ball, striking out a lot. But, we shall see what the Red Sox want to do when Middlebrooks returns on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, I would say this. What would you guys do? Would you let Fernie? What would you do? Would you let go of Siriaco?
And this is really tough situation, but I think you really have to lean towards that. I mean, Iglesias has proved that he should be up here, and I like him as a utility guy on our bench. I mean, we're going to have a couple guys getting injured here and there, maybe giving somebody a rest, and the fact that he can play third and short gives us more flexibility.
Second.
Yeah, he can play any infield position. We're not going to see him at first base, but the guy's got a great glove. He's hitting 400. And, I'm not a quitter on Will Middlebrooks. I want him to get back in the lineup and get the confidence he needs to, be a decent 5-6 hitter with power.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. I'd agree with that. And, I do think that Jose Iglesias is a Major League Baseball player now. I know in the past we were talking about how he can't stay up here. Siriaco really hasn't done anything this season, so I would keep Iglesias up. And for him, it's not about necessarily playing every day. He just wants to be in the big leagues. He doesn't want to be down in AAA again for another year. And he will eventually get his shot. I mean, maybe Stephen Drew really hasn't done anything this season. I know he's had his moments with the triples and he's homered here and there. But I think you need a guy that's getting on base. He's too much like his brother. He's too streaky. Maybe you trade Stephen Drew and you stick with Jose Iglesias for the rest of the season upon the trade deadline.
Drew's on base percentage is like 360.
Yeah, Drew does get on base. Exactly.
He walks so much.
Yeah, no, I mean that's part of his game, and that's why the Red Sox went after him. I mean, yeah. I still, if I was taking a straight up baseball player, one player or another, Stephen Drew or Jose Iglesias, I'm still going to take Stephen Drew, and I hate to say that, but when you add the other factors into it, where Iglesias has been this, this coveted prospect that we've had that nobody can touch, we gave this great deal to $10 million contract over 6 years, and he's really never really had a major sniff at being the everyday shortstop for the Red Sox. Never really had a sniff at it. I mean, he's played a little bit here and there, but it's going to be interesting to see what they do. I mean, I agree with Fern. I think Siriaco, you just got to you say, hey, I mean, this is pro sports. Sometimes you got to let good players go.
Yeah, it's a tough position. It's not a bad problem to have. I mean, do you send down a player who's shown that he can play so far this year just to keep Siriaco around?
Right.
I don't.
And he hasn't hit either.
No, he hasn't.
239.
The one thing about Iglesias, he loves to show off his arm. Like I've seen him feel the ball and wait till the last possible second so he gets him by a foot just to show how strong his arm is. Especially at third base, because he can show that off more. But
I don't like that kind of action. But
I also just think the Red Sox kind of, got themselves into a little bit of a pickle with the Steven Drew thing. I mean, they spent $10 million on a security blanket. Just
Well,
in
they
case
didn't think they didn't think Iglesias could do anything. They couldn't. They didn't think he could hit. And
I understand that. Neither did I. And I still agree with Jake. You know, I think Steven Drew's our starting shortstop. There's nothing else he can do. You got to let the kid hit. He's got power, and you know it's a lefty bat in your lineup. And I think Steven Drew is the type of guy that could get on a streak. I hate the correlation we tried to relate to him and his brother. And it's easy to make. They're both streaky hitters that could hit home runs. But I think Steven Drew has a little bit more desire, and that's not tough to do than J.D. Drew.
J.D. Drew was pretty good. He was overpaid.
Don't try to defend J.D. Drew. He was the worst.
He had 20 home runs each year, except for the final year.
Yeah, and he had 230 too with each of those years, and he was on the DL half the time. I wasn't saying he was a horrible player, but for $14 million a year, I think that's very overpaid.
I did say he was overpaid.
He
was way overpaid, but so was Steven Drew. That's all I gotta say.
He seemed to have a hangnail every other week.
Thank you. Finally, someone who agrees. All right, guys, I want to move on to our next segment. It's a new segment that we're doing here on Monday Night Throwdown. It's called Word Association. So basically, we have a bunch of names. I'm going to say each name, and then we're just going to go right down the line here. First word that pops into each of you guys' heads, just blurt it out, and we'll come back to me, and I'll give mine too. Okay, are you guys ready?
Let's do this.
All right, here we go. David Krejci.
Beast.
MVP.
Phenomenal.
MVP.
All right, let's go in order here. All right, Brian, we'll start with you. Matt Cook.
Evil.
Conniving.
Punk.
Clay Buchholz.
Brilliant.
Clay Buchholz. That's a good one. I would say.
I'm the uncreative one. This is Clay Buchholz. Come on.
Jake, are you there?
Yeah, I am here. Clay Buchholz. Let's see. I mean, can I say awesome?
Okay, there you go.
That is a verb. I mean an adjective. Sorry, I didn't go to English class. Filthy.
Stud. All right. Let's see. Jason Kidd.
Hall of Famer. Somewhere.
There we go. I'm gonna say overrated.
Wow.
Wife beater.
Wife beater. I'm gonna say legendary. Let's see. Doc Rivers.
I'm gonna say frightening because I'm frightened right now. Frightening.
Leader.
I'm gonna say returns. He's coming back. I don't know where all these rumors are coming from, but he will be back. Chris Anderson.
Punk.
I'm gonna say clown.
Defensive.
Mohawk. Danny Amendola.
Quality.
Next.
Sketchy.
Savior.
Sketchy.
Jose Iglesias.
Strong.
Babied.
Ozzie Smith.
All right. Grant Hill.
Okay.
Dookie.
Pistons.
Injury riddled. And our second to last one. This is a good one. Roy Hibbert.
Defensive.
Dominating.
Thoughtful.
Moron. And our last one, Dwayne Wade.
Old.
Clutch.
2006.
There you
go.
There you
All
go.
right, that's word association. We had some interesting ones. Jake, too, just completely blanked on
Clay Buchholz. My love for Clay Buchholz is so big that I wanted to think.
Whoa!
Of
I said brilliant. I said brilliant for Buchholz.
Yeah, I only came up with
Jake
awesome.
Just took forever on Clay Buchholz. You were just like, I don't know. I'm not sure.
I want like, tremendous.
And I got crap for just taking Fernie's punk on Matt Cook.
That was weak.
You guys were
like, yeah, that's stealing someone else's word, man.
You guys were like Rabbit in 8 Mile in his first battle.
Oh wow.
All right, guys. Let's move on to Tom Brady. OTA is going on in Foxborough with the Patriots right now. Obviously, Rob Gronkowski not present for obvious reasons. He just had his 7th surgery, and So should Tom Brady be worried? I mean, is this offense good enough, or will he make it good enough? I mean, what do you guys feel about that?
Go ahead.
I would say it's really scary to think that we didn't really go get any major pieces for Tom Brady as far as weapons. Danny Amendola is a nice piece, a replacement for Wes Welker. But part of the reason that the Patriots haven't been able to win the big game or even be in the, we've been really close. I mean, it's kind of, it's not really fair to say this, but in a way, it's like the style that they've been playing when they had a player like Wes Welker was part of the reason that they weren't able to win the last couple Super Bowls. I think that a lot of, what they're doing too is that they're building the running game. I think that the Patriots running game next year is going to be, you can quote me right here, that they are going to have the best running game in the NFL next year with Stephen Ridley, Vereen, and LeGarrette Blount. If he makes the game, he can stay
Where's the list? Where's the list?
Write the list down. Exactly.
Write it down.
Because
all right,
look,
best running game
when the Patriots were winning Super Bowls, they had players like, they had Antoine Smith who got the ball a lot, and they had Corey Dillon. That's when they were really good. When they were really good, Corey Dillon was pounding the football, and Tom Brady was picking on teams with the play action. And that's what they need to get back to win another Super Bowl. Not get to another Super Bowl, not have Tom Brady win another MVP, not win another, to beat another record or anything. To win the Super Bowl, they need to have a pounding running game, period.
Yeah, and I think that, we can't really ever say Tom Brady being worried. He's been one of the most confident guys, I think, ever to come into the NFL.
True.
And just kind of take the reins and run with it. I mean, the teams he won with in the early 2000s, we didn't have any all-stars on our wide receiving core. I mean, we had guys like David Gibbons, a young Deion Branch, the tight end crew that was, by committee. And Tom Brady can make anybody look great. And I truly believe that. I know it's cliche to say, but this guy, and he feels better than ever. He said he's throwing the ball better than ever out in California right now. And I think, the Patriots come in, and if they can pound the ball, like Jake said, be the top of the AFC East with a team like the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, you look at this offense right now, it's not a sexy offense by any means, but as Jake said, neither was the Super Bowl 36, 38, or 39 teams. Those were not sexy offenses. The 07 team, that was sexy. The 2011 team that went to the Super Bowl, that was sexy. They came away empty-handed, both of them. So it's not necessarily those nice-looking, prolific offenses that get the job done. I mean, it goes back to the thing we said about defense, and we could talk about that. But talking about the offense right now, Amendola, they have Jake Ballard, they have Donald Jones, Michael Jenkins, guys that are not really top-tier guys, but guys
don't forget about LeGarrette Blount.
He's a running back, though.
Yeah, he's a running back. But out of the backfield, I just think that these are guys that Tom Brady can maybe start to kind of do what he did early on in his career and find roles for these guys. And I think that's what Bill Belichick is so good at as a head coach, is finding things that he can, take a guy, evaluate his skill set, and use him in a certain capacity. I think that's what Bill Belichick thrives in. And I think that's why, even though we're looking right now and looking at this offense and, we go, wow, this offense sucks.
Don't you think anyone would do good with Tom Brady as their quarterback?
I think
it's not Bill Belichick deciding who's good and who's not. It's Tom Brady. Okay.
You don't think Belichick had? Well, Brian, you don't think Belichick had anything to do with that? You don't think he had anything to do with the fact that, okay, I think he's going to work well in our system? You don't just throw random guys. Okay, so then by that logic, that means Brandon Lloyd should have been much better because he was working with Tom Brady, and Ocho Cinco must have been that much better because he was.
Lloyd had like 1,000 yards almost.
Oh, Joey Galloway was amazing, wasn't he?
Did Lloyd sign with anywhere else?
No, he's still free agent.
So he's coming back.
Exactly. Like they let him go, so he would wouldn't get that signing bonus. Yeah, the roster bonus. So. I mean, what I'm saying is that it's not Bill Belichick who makes people good, okay? I'm sure any other coach would do great with Tom Brady. That's what.
Oh, did I say that? Now you're twisting my words. I didn't say.
No, that's what you said.
I didn't say he makes the player better. I didn't say he makes the player better. The player has his level of talent. As a head coach, Bill Belichick's job is to evaluate that talent and see where he can fit in with the rest of the team, with the other 53 guys.
Well, let's put it this way. Belichick stuck with Brady over Bledsoe. That's why, in a lot of ways, I mean, it was sketchy to talk to at best. That I remember when they were talking about Bledsoe coming back, and over the years of Bledsoe just being Bledsoe, getting sacked, making mistakes, throwing picks, being terribly unathletic as a quarterback, all that stuff. We were
he was Belichick was not good until he started Brady. Like, he did not have good years with Bledsoe.
He stuck with Brady. He didn't have to stick with Brady. And that's where you got to give him credit. He had the vision to see that Tom Brady was somebody who was going to be able to lead a team to a Super Bowl and knew that Bledsoe never would be able to.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. See, Brian, Jake is validating my point.
I'm just saying that Belichick isn't like the greatest coach in the world.
Oh my goodness! Wow. Okay, we have to say that for another show. I'm gonna bring that back in some form. That's blasphemy right there.
I think that Tom Brady is going to win another Super Bowl before his career is over.
Love it.
And I don't think right now at the start of June anybody that's a Patriots fan can really start to worry about where this offense is going to be come the start of the season. You know, I think a guy like Brandon Lloyd could easily be coming back. I think that Belichick's offense is going to put up points, and I think Brady's going to have a huge year again. And why wouldn't he? Get me a jersey. Like I've said before, get me a jersey. I'll run routes.
Yeah,
I don't think you'd do good, Fern. I'm sorry.
Wow.
I don't think you'd be able to keep up with the cornerbacks.
I have blazing speed.
I bet I could beat you in a foot race, Frank.
Wow.
Let's set that up.
Absolutely not.
Let's set that up. I want to set that up right now.
Let's go.
That's going to be on our next.
That's going to be on our next segment.
That's on our website coming up. Don't worry.
Brian.
50-yard dash. 50 yards. Is that fair?
I just saw a couple of my high school teachers that were a part of the baseball team, and they said, "You remember Fern turning singles into triples?"
Yeah.
They did not say that.
I don't think
we're videotaping a foot race between you two, and we're gonna have it on our website, and everyone should go check it out because it's gonna be absolutely ridiculous.
All right, hey, let's move on to our newest. I just said our newest segment was word association, but I guess our second newest one is going to be Jake's banter. It's where Jake basically banters or rants for how long? A minute, 2 minutes, however long you want about anything. We don't know. And we don't know what you're bantering about.
Pretty much till I run out of oxygen, but
basically,
like as Fern knows, it doesn't happen too often.
All right, go for it. Take it away.
Jake's
banter.
So, as most of us, I was watching, the NBA Eastern Conference Finals, and Chris Anderson has been a great player for Miami. He's been playing great defensively on Hibbert. He's been finishing every bucket, doing all the things that the Heat really missed, doing all the dirty work, finishing good passes when LeBron is doubled or Bosh is doubled or Wade is doubled. But the play that he made the other night to Hansbrough, to me, and I'm not a big Hansbrough fan by any means. He annoys me. He annoys everybody. His style of play is just kind of like, it's not something. He doesn't play a beautiful style of basketball. But to go after Hansbrough in the backcourt, where it's not like the problem that I have with it is it wasn't really in the flow of the game. He was in the backcourt and he went over and he just shoved him on the ground, which to me it's like there's so many ways of being physical in basketball and letting things. Hey, if you're going at it with a guy like that, at least be in the rhythm of the game, under the basket, getting a rebound off a foul shot, something that to go and just shove somebody in the back in the backcourt. Well, the ball is advanced to to the other side of the court. To me, it's just absolutely ridiculous. There's no place for it in basketball. It wasn't like a hard foul like McHale and Rambis where McHale took Rambis' head off. It wasn't anything like that. It was just he went up and shoved him. And it was a stupid play. And now the Heat are on the, it's Game 7 now, and I don't blame it completely on Anderson. And then you add the fact that he absolutely just looks like a clown. So to me, I'm looking at this clown with his hair spiked up and all these tattoos over him go over and push Hansbrough, who, I would like to push Hansbrough, I'm sure, at some point. Honestly, he's not, like I said, I'm not defending him. It was just the way that he went after being physical, it just drove me crazy because it made no sense. None. And now there's Game 7. So here you go.
Get out of your system, Jake.
Whew. Hate me some Chris Anderson.
You can breathe again.
Yeah, I know. I was timing that. I think he took like a minute and a half there to just kind of let it all go. Yeah, I mean, I never realized that you hated Chris Anderson that much.
It's not that I hate him. It's just like that play to me was so detrimental. You're putting your whole team at risk because you, like I said, there's no justifying it. It wasn't like they were going for a rebound. He just went and pushed him like a fifth grader.
Yeah, he could have gone about it differently.
That's what I'm saying. If you go physical and like push him over like under the boards or something, oh, I went over and pushed him in the backcourt. Like, what a loser.
Well, there you go, guys. That's Jake's banter, and his topic of choice this week was Chris Anderson, Birdman. And I thought it was pretty entertaining. I love it. But let's stick on basketball right now. I want to move on to the Celtics, and obviously a lot of off-season speculation right now with Doc Rivers and Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce. Jackie McMullen a few days ago reported that Kevin Garnett will in fact be back with the team next year, which leads me to believe that there's no reason that Doc Rivers would leave. Now, the question is, what happens to Paul Pierce? The Celtics have a June 30th buyout of Paul Pierce, which I'll let you guys talk, but I think they should use that buyout and get rid of Paul Pierce and start Jeff Green at that position. But it would be in Danny Ainge's best interest to wait for the draft and see how things kind of pan out that way. Brian, you take it away and let me know what you think.
That if KG is coming back, Paul Pierce is definitely coming back because KG basically said that if Paul Pierce doesn't come back, then he's not coming back, which means Doc Rivers won't be coming back. Well, unless Doc Rivers wants to work with Jeff Green and everyone.
It's not a bad team, though. If you can get another piece, you let Paul Pierce go, you get another big, you go get somebody like Al Jefferson, or a lot of talk has been, you were talking about Jackie McMullen. You know who Jackie McMullen is saying the Celtics is their number one target? Is Paul Millsap. And if you think about it, to build a team around a player like Paul Millsap, who's physical, who does all the dirty work, gets boards, does all that good, plays inside, has an inside game, has a nice jump shot. You team him up with Jeff Green, a longer guy. You still got Rondo, you still got Avery Bradley. You put Garnett at center. You got a nice squad right there without Paul Pierce. If Paul Pierce, to me, if he could come off the bench, would be perfect. But I don't know if he will ever really take that role. Or he could see what Ray Allen did and think, maybe I don't really want to take another leap into another situation just quite yet.
I think that everybody has just kind of jumped on the let's get rid of Paul Pierce bandwagon too quickly.
Me too.
Let's look at what happened after Rondo got hurt. Hey, this is the guy that got us back into the playoffs. He took the team on his back. Yeah, he had the worst playoffs of his career, and that was tough to watch, and I was upset. But still, he had a better-than-average season, and the guy has bled green his whole career. I don't think that we could just go and get rid of him. I mean, it's tough to say, but I think he's going to be in a Celtics jersey next year. I really do.
Fern, I'm looking at his stats right now, and you're right. He had 18.6 points per game, and he had, 6.3 rebounds per game. A fine season when you look at it, but he had his worst field goal percentage since, 06, 07, even longer than that. So when you look at, his ability to hit shots at an effective rate and efficient rate, he just doesn't have it anymore. I mean, he has to take, 20, 25 shots a game now to get the same 18 points that he would only need 12, 13 shots earlier in his career. And I think, in a way, he's kind of blocking Jeff Green. I think Jeff Green is ready to step up and be a starter at the 3 spot. And if you're going to keep Paul Pierce around, is he worth $15 million? I don't think it's about keeping Paul Pierce. I think it's about keeping Paul Pierce at that money when you could free up that cap space and then go and get role players for less money.
Yeah, that makes sense. I agree with you. If we could keep him for maybe $5 million and spend 10 on someone else and him be a role player coming off the bench.
Ooh, love it.
But it's just tough for me to see the Celtics not giving him money. I understand it's tough, but I just see Danny Ainge, who loves Paul Pierce, saying, "Hey, Paul, you're starting at the 3 again this year. Here's $15 million. The Celtics might be a 7 or 8 seed again."
I don't know. I don't know how much longer they could take that approach. I think to say that they have to blow it up might be a little. I still think they have a good core, but they got to start making some changes here. I think they're hanging on to this big three too long if you include Rondo in that. I think Rondo with Avery Bradley and Jared Sullinger and some of these new guys, Jeff Green, I think that's the future. I think they need to get away now from Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce and sort of look into the crystal ball and see what's in store for them down the road.
I still think Paul Pierce is a six-man. Like, he could play well as a six-man off the bench and have Jeff Green start. I mean, sure, $50 million is a lot for a six-man, but he can still get it done, limit his minutes, and he'll be able to score 20, 25 points per game. I don't think
that's going to happen. First of all, he's not scoring 25 or so points per game as a starter. What makes you think he's going to do it off the bench?
Fresh legs.
And second of all, Brian, I just don't think that Paul Pierce wants to. I think he'd rather be a starter elsewhere. I know a lot of us say.
I don't think so. Oof, I don't. Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
It's gonna. No, I'm sure it'll be painful for him. But
what team needs three guard three spot right now? Shooting forward.
No, I think maybe the Clippers might be interested. Maybe young teams like Memphis. Maybe Memphis would be interested in him. Teams. I feel like a lot of these young teams that want a little bit of that veteran presence. Because I look at the Clippers and they're talking about not bringing back Chauncey Billups. And
Golden State Warriors. There we go. He can go to the Golden State Warriors. I'd be happy with that.
They're a young team. So my gut feeling is Paul Pierce is not coming back next year, and I can't say that that's a bad decision. If I'm Danny Ainge, that's the decision I go with. And obviously there's no reason for him to make that decision right now. He has until June 30th to make the decision.
27 days. 27 days.
Right. So naturally, you'd want to kind of wait and see how the draft goes. Maybe something happens during the draft that makes Danny say, you know what, maybe I should keep Paul Pierce. Maybe there's so many things that could happen. But my gut feeling is that Paul Pierce will get bought out and he will go elsewhere, and they're going to start Jeff Green at that position next year.
They have one draft pick in the draft this year. One.
Yeah, that's not good.
And
yeah, did they get that to trade for Sullinger, right? Did they do that for the Sullinger trade?
That's fine. Yep. I like Sullinger. He's a good guy.
Yeah,
me too.
Yeah, I know. I like him on the squad, and you guys all know I'm a big Jeff Green guy, and I want to see him in the starting lineup, and Paul Pierce is definitely blocking him there.
Yeah, it's a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
No, legit. It's a good way of putting it.
He pretty much is. So,
yeah, I mean,
down
we've all been there.
We've all had the friend. We've all had the friend that was getting nowhere that night and just lingered around.
Wouldn't go to bed.
And just lingered and lingered.
And just go home. It's over.
Let's go on now to Fernie's picks of the week. Fern, what do you got?
Well, as we all know, there's a big basketball game this evening between the Indiana Pacers and the Miami Heat down in South Beach.
This should be good. I want to see who Fernie's got.
And the lines came out at 7, and they've kind of gone back and forth between 6.5 and 7, with 55% of the money going to Indiana. And I just honestly believe that that's a sucker bet. And the whole country thinking that Indiana is going to cover, or that Miami won't cover the 7 points, but just sneak by with a win, I think are out of their mind. I think they're going to get help from the refs tonight. I think that David Stern wants the Heat in the NBA Finals. And I think that LeBron James is just going to go off tonight. I mean, this guy averages close to 35 points a game in Game 7s, which is the most all-time out of anyone.
Jeez.
And I know he's scored, 35 points and lost Game 7s, but he's also won a championship now. He's got that underneath his belt, and I don't see there any way that he loses this game tonight. And I think the Heat wins by 10 points after keeping it around 5, 6, 7, and at the end of the game, they just, with fouls and stuff, get it to 10. I see the game being 100 to 90, 100 to 91. I don't think the Heat can play as bad as they did in Game 6, and, not having a guy like Chris Anderson kind of threw him off and all that. 79 points, that's not happening tonight.
No, it's definitely not. I think I agree with you, Fernie, that LeBron James is going to be on an absolute mission, and also too, you gotta think Wade's going to show up too. You gotta expect he's going to show up a little bit. Although Brian disagrees with me, of course.
Well,
he's hurt.
Okay.
Well, and another point too is that this Indiana Pacers team has never been in this position before. So you got a guy like Roy Hibbert, who it's his first time in Game 7 of an Eastern Conference Finals. Paul George is obviously coming up All-Star. could be one of the best players in the NBA next year if he plays like he has this playoffs. He's never been there. Their coach has never been there. I think this is all very fresh for them, and we saw how LeBron James handled that when it was very fresh for him. And now that he's won a championship, I see them covering the 7 points and winning by 9 to 10 points.
I don't know who would watch it. Pacers, Spurs. That's the NBA final.
Right, Lord Stern's not going to let that happen. You know that Lord Stern's not going to let that happen.
Oh, absolutely not. No, he wants his Miami Heat to go to a third straight finals, and I think they're gonna win tonight. And it's gonna be a close game. I think it's gonna come down to the wire, but I think the Heat are gonna pull it out. I think LeBron's gonna go off. I don't think he's gonna wait for Dwayne Wade or Chris Bosh to show up. It's a Game 7. You have to have a sense of urgency, and I think LeBron is gonna look to set the tempo early. Obviously, if Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh do show up early in the game, then he might look to spread the ball a little bit, but I don't think he's going to wait around long. If they sputter early, then he's just going to take over, and he's going to go into Cleveland mode, as he put it earlier today.
You got to think that great players play great in big situations, and this is as big as it gets. It's the Eastern Conference Finals, Game 7 at home. LeBron, what's up? Where you at? So
I just want to see Chris Bosh's face if they win.
This is my prediction.
It'll be a meme.
This is my prediction for LeBron James tonight. 40 points, 10 boards, 8 dimes. And I hope I'm wrong and he just has a triple-double and just...
Yeah, with like 4 blocks. He's going to go off. He's going to go absolute beast mode.
23 points for LeBron James tonight.
In the first half, Ryan. In the first half.
No.
Let's make a bet here. Gentleman's bet. LeBron James has more than 23 points.
That's easy. If I want to see what the over/under is tonight for his points.
I bet it's 31.
Oh yeah, I guarantee it's over 30.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. And Brian before the show said that 7 was a little high, and he thought it would be a lot closer for the spread. But you got to understand, the guys that are doing these handicaps, that are out in Vegas, the handicappers, they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's 7 for a reason.
Big time.
So while we have the betting thing out and, the predictions and stuff like that, Fernie, I want to get your prediction on this Bruins-Pens series. Not Game 2, but the entire series. Who's winning this series?
After Game 1 win by the Bruins, I got to say Bruins in 7.
7 games. Interesting. Yeah, I'm going to say I think the Bruins will win this series. I think they'll get back to the Stanley Cup final. I'm going to take it in 6 games, though. I think I don't see them losing at home, and they've already taken 1 in Pittsburgh. I think they're going to win out at home, and they'll finish it off in 6.
Bruins in 5. I'm calling it.
Wow, Bruins in 5. I like the Bruins in 6.
Yeah, I mean, in 7, this doesn't seem really realistic because if the Pens get it back to 7, the puck's back in there. You know what I mean? Like
but all the Penguins have to do is win 1 in Boston. Don't act like that they can't. That the Penguins have won twice in Boston already this year.
Yeah, the Penguins
dominated them.
The Penguins.
What do we say, though? It's not about how you play during the regular season. It's about how you're playing now. And the way you're playing right now, I think they're as good as
Penguins were playing good too. It's not like the Penguins were just like, scoring 1 goal a game and winning 1-0 every game. They were winning like 7-4. Like they were just shooting the lights out. And as long as Tuukka Rask spins on his head and can make saves, we'll be all fine.
Well, they won. The Penguins won 1 game against the Senators, 1-0 with an overtime goal, which was very odd. But I think the Penguins could even lose tonight and still win the series. I don't.
Do you think Fleury will get a start? No, absolutely not.
If they lose tonight,
if Vokun
gives up some soft goals, I think Fleury's back in.
Well, there you go. All right, guys, I think that pretty much does it for us here on this edition of Monday Night Throwdown on BostonSportsRadio.net. Our first show in like a month and a half, but it's good to be back with you guys. I missed you guys. So hopefully no one's going anywhere now for the next few months. So we'll be back with you guys next week, and we'll be talking more Bruins, Red Sox, Celtics, and Patriots. For everyone here, Brian Roach, Jake Banter, and John Fernald, I'm Aashish Sharma. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys next time. Peace.